Hi everyone, welcome to this quick tutorial on moving projects around between Premiere, DaVinci Resolve, and Pro Tools. I have a more detailed tutorial on this elsewhere on this channel where you can get all the why and all the details behind things, but I know sometimes you might just need a quick refresher on making sure you're getting all the settings right and stuff and not talk through all the why, so this is that video if you just want the quick run through of the whole thing. So I have here a sequence in Premiere that's been edited. And this is not anything of real use. It's just something I threw together for this demo. You can see I have my video tracks and some audio tracks. I've set an in point and out point around my sequence, which I just like to do for safety. Let's say that I'm done editing this in Premiere and I'm ready to go to do my color grading and audio. So I've got the timeline or sequence selected over here. I'm going to go to Export and go to Final Cut Pro XML. And I'll pick where I want this. I'll just say for Resolve. Okay, and that's what's going to be going into DaVinci Resolve to do my color grading. And then while I'm here, I'm also going to export for Pro Tools. So I'm going to export again and do an AAF. And the key thing here is I do want to make sure to click this box for breakout to mono and enable that. And then here, your sample rate and bit depth set to whatever you've been working in and whatever your project is. And I want to make sure this is set to embed the audio. And lastly, down here for render, if you have a small project and you want to just keep all your complete audio files, you can. But to make this more general, I might be working on a very large project. I usually like to not copy all of my complete audio files. I just want to trim them. So just get the parts I'm using, but then I do want to give my audio team some handles, meaning extensions on those. So I like to do about 240 frames here. And you can select to mix down the video or not. I actually usually do a different option here, which I'll show you that as well. If I don't do this, I'll show you what happens and it mostly works. And same thing here, say AF for Pro Tools. And you can see on my desktop, I now have these two files I've exported. One of these is my XML sequence for Resolve. The other is an AF for Pro Tools. Okay, so technically I'm good with just those two files, and I'll show you things will work with just that. But I like to export a QuickTime video as well to use as my reference in Pro Tools, just because sometimes the AAF export, depending on what codec I was working with and things, those can be a little wonky on the video side. So I'm going to go File, Export Media. And I'm going to export a QuickTime movie in this case. And inside that QuickTime, I'm going to work in DNX HD because I know Pro Tools will work with that nicely and it's going to stay frame accurate with it. So you really don't want to do something like an H.264, which in Pro Tools sometimes is not going to stay exactly synced with your audio the same way. So I'm going to go with the DNX HD LB, the lowest bandwidth version, smallest file, because I don't need super high quality. I'm just using this as a reference. So I'll say this is my reference. And so now I've got these three files, and that's all I'm going to need out of Premiere. So then to see where we go with this from here, I'm going to go into DaVinci Resolve, and this is where I would be doing my color grade. So I'm going to open up a project, and I'm going to import a timeline, select my XML that I exported. And you can see all these things here. See my longer video for more details on what some of these things mean. One thing I will note is if I had been working with proxy files, I do want to click this link to source camera files to make sure for my color grade I'm working with the highest quality original media. In this case, I was just working with the original files in Premiere already, so that's grayed out. So I'll hit OK. And it'll take a second, but it'll bring that sequence in. You can see here it is. It's got the cuts and all the files lined up exactly as they were in Premiere. And now I could go into color and do my color grading. So I'm set up for that. Meanwhile, on the audio side, I'll go into Pro Tools and I'm going to open a session and I'm going to tell it to open that AAF file that I created and open that as a new Pro Tools session. So it's going to ask me about the settings and stuff. I'm going to make sure they match up with what I already exported. And I'm just going to throw this on my desktop so I can delete it shortly. Okay, and then I'll get this window and it's going to show all the tracks that were in there and what I want to do with them, how I want to bring them in. And you remember in the AF, I did export the video, and I'm going to go ahead and bring this in here, even though I normally wouldn't, just to show you that that can work. Here's my video, and if you look over here at my sequence, here's all the audio, here's those video clips. It did bring this in. Again, I don't usually like relying on this. In this case, it's an MP4, and I don't know what sort of format this original stuff was, so I'm actually going to delete this track. And what I like to do is import that reference video I created, and import the audio as well. Okay, so now I have that video. The other thing is I also have this reference track of the mix down from Premiere, and so if something was wrong with my AF, or I have some files that came in here and something's a little bit weird, I'd be like, are we sure that's really how it was supposed to sound? And I can go back to this track and listen and hear how it was supposed to sound coming out of Premiere. Normally I'm just going to leave this muted and probably hide it, but I have it there as a reference if I want. And so I would do whatever audio work I'm going to do here. Let's just say I adjusted some volumes and stuff. Obviously you could do a lot more than this, but let's pretend that was it and I've finished my mix and this is finished soundtrack ready to go. I'm going to select my video file here. The other nice thing about this reference is it's exactly the length of the whole sequence, so I know this is going to exactly match up with my original video. And remember in Pro Tools, if I want to get my audio out, instead of going to export, I'm just going to go to bounce mix. I'll call this finished mix. Make sure all my output settings here are correct. Again, see the longer video for more details. Okay, bounce that. And that's going to be in my Pro Tools folder here in bounced. You can see there's my finished mix. And what I'm going to do, once I have that finished mix, this has been what my audio team's working on, I'm going to lock my video for a second here in Resolve, and I'm going to grab all this audio and just delete it. I don't want it anymore. And instead what I'm going to do is bring in that finished mix into my session and just lay it down, and you see it's exactly the same length as the video. So now I have finished audio mix. Once I'm done coloring, I have my finished video. And then from here, I could go to the Deliver tab and output whatever versions of my finished movie I want. But I would have the finished picture here and finished soundtrack married with it, and I'm done. I do not need to go back into Premiere. I'm just going to finish out of Resolve and do my outputs out of here. And that's it. If you wanted more of the details or to know more of the why about this or go through some of the pitfalls or various options, again, you can watch my longer tutorials, but that's the quick overview version. Hope that was helpful, and I'll see you next time.